Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. We're presented by CLNS Media. Today on the show, we've got good friend of the program, Cole Zwicker, on to break down what happened at the 2018 NBA Draft Combine. I was there in Chicago, got a chance to talk to some of these guys up close and in person. Cole was hanging out at home in Seattle, enjoying life in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. How's it going, man?
It's going well. I got exposed, or I exposed myself on Twitter because I was rewatching the Combine on Watch ESPN app, and I was like actually rewinding it, looking at the far court and like shooting drills and stuff. So that's the level of sociopath I am. So I was watching off movement stuff, but it was fun. It was a fun Combine. I'm not sure how much you could really take from it grand scale, which we'll talk about, but at least I thought some of the information was valuable. Yeah, no, we'll talk about that in a minute here. I kind of want to lead with that, but you mentioned the idea of just doing like the maniacal things at the Combine. It's funny because like two of the people I trust most are you and obviously Mike Schmitz. I've talked about Mike on the pod. Mike and I are like friends. We talk all the time about this stuff. And Mike, it was funny. I was talking to him after day one of the Combine, and he's like, "Oh my God, did you see 5-on-5? I was too busy. Like I like all this TV stuff. Like this is what I want to do. I just want to watch the 5-on-5." And I was like, "Yeah, I was like here and there. I was doing more interview stuff in the back room and like talking to like guys as they would come off the court. And I had to go back and watch the 5-on-5 as well." But Mike was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna like tonight. I think I'm just gonna like go home and like just watch this 5-on-5 stuff and like really catch up on it." And like that's what you have to do to be in this industry to do NBA draft stuff. You have to be like Cole and Mike and really work like crazy and be maniacal about scrimmages that really don't even matter. Pretty much, yeah, exactly that. It was kind of funny because the initial reaction by basically everybody watching the mainstream telecast on ESPN2, because they cut in and out of the game, it was mostly interviews. Everybody was freaking out, like, where can we get, all the hardcores are like, where can we get the actual footage? So I ended up watching the interview section on one TV, and then I watched the Combine, just all the games at once. So I was listening to everybody talk about it, but I was also watching on the other TV. So that's how I kind of managed the two affairs there.
Good Lord. So yeah, like the Combine stuff, I go every year because I think it's a really fun event. I think it's a great chance for me to go and like just talk with kids that I haven't gotten a chance to meet and greet with, and like kind of it's becoming harder and harder to do that because the Combine is starting to get more and more media every year. Like I think we were over like 200 credentialed media members this year, which is a lot, and it becomes harder to do one-on-one stuff. But a lot of the guys, like in the late first to like end of the second round range, I typically get a chance to like chat with real quick and like learn a little bit more out of. So I really enjoy the Combine from that perspective. I enjoy the Combine from the perspective of getting a chance to just go out and chat with NBA personnel in an enclosed area. You can go do that at the Intercontinental Hotel. You can do that at a lot of different like areas in the city of Chicago. But the thing that is not as important to me is what actually happens at the Combine. Like you can, like players help themselves here and there. They like certainly can, rise a little bit up and down the boards. But like you're not talking about someone going from like late second round pick all the way up to like late first round pick. You're talking about like maybe you move a guy up 10 spots on your board. Like if he plays well at the Combine, maybe, and that might even be a lot.
Yeah, I think it has some value comparatively looking at guys size-wise. Like Josh Okogie really stood out as far as how big he was relative to the other wing prospects. Like he looked legit big, and I think it has value there. Like Kevin Huerter, I thought his decision-making was a touch faster than everybody else's. From what I saw, like his reads, he was making them pretty instantaneously. So stuff like that, when you're putting it in relation to other prospects. So that's how I use it for. Like it makes some guys stand out that are kind of in a cluster. Like you're not going to vault anybody for, like I was already had D'Anthony Melton top 20 because I love that kid. So it's not like, maybe for me he jumped up 5-6 spots because his shooting mechanics looked a little bit more fluid than they did at USC. But overall, you're not getting a huge leap. You're just getting maybe some fringe guys that jump up 10-15 spots. But that can be the difference between the second round and the first round. Yeah,
like Kevin Huerter is someone that I've had on my board like as a top 50 guy for the last, 2 months probably, something like that, like since maybe the end of the college basketball season. Like he's a really good player. Like I didn't really need him to go ball out the Combine like for me to see that. Like I knew that he was a potential first round pick, I guess. And like that, I think that's how a lot of executives feel. But from the outer perspective, I can see why people use it as valuable, because it's a great chance for everyone to be in one place and for them to get a like viewing of all of those guys in one place. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think for the fringe guys that the guys aren't super familiar with, it just lets you put them in context better next to other guys who are vying for like the end of the first round, for example.
Yeah. And you brought up the idea too of seeing guys like stand next to each other, like just on the floor, right? Like Dante DiVincenzo looks big on the floor. Like he I know that like you look at his measurements, he's like 6'4.5" with a 6'6" wingspan, and like only has like an 8'1" standing reach or something. But you look at him on the floor, his shoulders are broad. He looks like he could deal with the NBA grind right now. You know what I mean?
100%. And I think the angle they film the combine at, it's kind of easy to see body physique, and guys just stand out more in that setting for some reason, even on television. Like it's very, very noticeable.
Yeah, no. And let's talk about, I'll ask you where you want to start. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with measurements? Do you want to start with 5-on-5? Do you just want to start with like overall guys who popped and like were quote unquote like winners of the combine?
Yeah, let's do that latter. As far as who do you think were the biggest winners of the combine? I don't even know what that means precisely as far as relative to what we thought before or whatnot. But who stood out for you as far as biggest winners over the 2 days?
I would say that the biggest one for me was probably Melvin Frazier, I guess. Like you and I have been talking about Melvin Frazier since January, right? Like we've been telling people, hey, there's this kid at Tulane. He's 6'6", has like a 7-foot plus wingspan. He defends his ass off, and he's like a wild athlete. That's not a surprise. Like we knew that.
Yep.
But he played really, really well in 5-on-5. We finally got the official measurements that he's 6'6" with a 7'2" wingspan and a 40-inch vertical leap. The three-point shot, I think, looked fine. Like, he hit a pull-up three in 5-on-5. He had that, like, nice little windmill dunk out in transition. Didn't even play the second day of 5-on-5 because why would he after that performance? Like, he was really, really good, I thought, at the Combine.
Yeah, and most importantly, it confirmed what we talked about on the last podcast. Was it translates functionally, his athleticism. He's very, very good on-ball defender. He's very quick twitch, one of the better quick twitch wing defenders in the draft. Good on ball, good length. I still have my reservations about him off the ball defensively, but I did think he represented himself well in 5-on-5 the first day he played, because he played the second day. And the measurements, I mean, that's obviously going to do him a lot of good. Every team needs a wing that's 6'6" with a 7'2" wingspan that's athletic. So he definitely helped himself. Yeah, like he is going to be a high-level NBA defender. I'm not at all worried about that. I'm maybe like a little bit worried. Is he more of a 35% three-point shooter than like a 38% three-point shooter? Yeah, maybe. That might be true. But like if I was a team picking in the 20s, there's no way you could get me to like number 29 and not have him be selected. Yeah, he's probably going to be late first round for me now. I'm not as high on him generally, just because I do think there's still deficiencies in his game, but he can handle the ball a little bit, pass a little bit. I just don't really buy the shot fully, but I think for what the NBA needs, he's a developmental guy that you put in the G League in the beginning of the season. You have him work on his skill game, and you refine that shot, and if he does shoot, he's valuable. And that's the kind of guy that can get you value at the end of the first round. Early second round is a wing who's hyper athletic, who can handle the ball a little bit, pass a little bit. We talked about the importance of dribble, pass, and shoot. He can do a little bit of all of those things. I'm not sure if he's proficient at any one like you noted, but we'll see. I think at the end of the first round, you could do a lot worse than him. Yeah, and like the quick twitch athleticism is just insane. Like he is so athletic. Like he uses it on the floor both laterally and vertically. He's just a monster. He's like always smiling too. Like I talked to him afterward. Like he's a good kid. Like he's like just. I don't think he understands how good and like how talented he is yet. Maybe, but he's like really a kid that I want to root for now too. After talking to him, he's like kind of awesome. Definitely, that's awesome. Who do you want to talk about next? I'll let you make another. We'll go back and forth and like pick like the 5 guys that we really liked. I got to go Josh Okogie here just because, again, he really stood out physically on the floor in 5-on-5s. And the measurements, 6'4.5", 7-foot wingspan, so that was confirmed. 210, almost 211 pounds. He had that explosive vertical. I do think maybe his vertical leap is being over-exaggerated a little bit. He's very dynamic when he can load up off 2 feet, very explosive there. You can see that on his tape. But he does have finishing issues as far as he's a little bit slow off the ground as far as quickness there, so he doesn't get off the ground hyper quickly. He has some finishing issues off 1 foot in traffic, but you love seeing these kind of measurables for a little bit of undersized guy. He has the frame. I do think he's a very good horizontal athlete as far as quickness laterally. He really stood out defensively more than probably anybody else to me as far as lateral quickness. At the combine, he was staying in front of basically everybody. Really high motor. I think in the first day of scrimmages, he ended up contesting a shot through the buzzer when the game was a complete blowout, and that's going to resonate some with executives. So I thought he really helped himself. Shot the ball pretty well. I have some issues with his shot as far as a little bit slow and hard to get off when pressed up on sometimes, but I do think he represented himself well. He's a wing who, again, I think is going to be one of the better switch wings in the class as far as containing dribble penetration on the perimeter, and he's a fringe guy, so he's not surefire coming out, but I did think he did enough to really help himself. I think he should stay in the draft. What about you?
So yeah, if you made me bet on this, I would guess that so I actually talked to Okogie about this first and about staying in the draft. He said that it's not about where he will be picked, like first round, second round. He doesn't really care. He just wants to be like mentally and physically ready to go pro. Like as long as he feels that way, even if he thought he was going to go undrafted, like he would probably leave. Is the impression I got. It seemed to me as someone speaking to him that was the way he was leaning. Like he was leaning toward coming out, but like that's not something he told me either. You know what I mean? So like, I'm not saying like, I think he's going to come out or he's definitely coming out. Like the way that I gathered speaking to him was that he was thinking about coming out and was probably leaning that direction based off of what I was like garnering from the conversation. In terms of his game, he was a guy that like, I think I had 4 analytics like executives in the NBA, we'll call them, reach out to me throughout the course of the year, just like who is this Josh Okogie guy? Like who is he? What do I need to know about him? Because he really pops in all of our databases. And 6'5", 7-foot wingspan, can shoot the basketball a little bit. Like he's still a little bit inconsistent with shot selection. I think that holds down his percentages, but I actually think he can shoot. It's just that he doesn't like apply all of that athleticism on the floor, as you kind of mentioned. And he would get at Georgia Tech in like the midst of a down year, he would get spacey defensively. You know what I mean? Like he didn't bring it defensively every night. Would you agree with that?
I would 100%. That's why he kind of popped for me here. I mean, he's good on the ball, but off the ball, I have my concerns. And I never really watched him at Georgia Tech and was like, he blew me out of the water. I was intrigued, but he was more of like a developmental guy for me. That's still kind of how I see him, but I do think he's one of the better switch wings in the class. Again, I think he's very good laterally. He's got great strength. We saw all that stuff confirmed via his athletic testing, his measurements here. Yeah,
so the guy that I think like I would most... like he reminds me of Norman Powell a lot. I don't know if that's like a right or wrong thing to say, just because I was really high on Norman Powell too. Like I had Norman Powell as a late first round pick in that draft. That ended up being like right. Okogie is like a Norman Powell that can shoot it from a younger age, I guess. He is that big, thick, powerful physical frame, despite like a lack of traditional size. From a, like, I guess what you would call a 2-3, like a combo wing. Does that worry you at all, given some of the things that we've seen from Norman Powell, like in terms of the struggles he's had against bigger wings in the NBA?
I mean, I definitely think it's a factor for sure. I like Okogie's low center of gravity, though. I do think that gives him ability to anchor where some guys his size would not. So I'm intrigued. Again, he never really popped for me on film as far as super high IQ. He can do a little bit of everything. Like he had a couple quick decisions passing the ball here. He also, he can handle the ball functionally. He's not a high level there, but he can do it at least maybe in a pinch. straight line guy for the most part. Yeah, a little bit of ball handling control. So I'm intrigued. I think that he has at least developmental upside, and he plays the wing, and you can switch a little bit. So for what the game is now, I think in the 20 range, late 20s, early 30s in the draft. I don't see him going any higher than that, but I could see a team in the late 20s taking a dice roll on this kid. I mean, from what you said, he seems pretty self-aware. He's a good kid, and the NBA needs wings, and this is one of the better strength kind of length guys in the class to me.
Yeah, let's talk about the two white dudes. Let's talk about Kevin Huerter and Dante DiVincenzo. And I say that like unironically because Kevin Huerter, like after the first 5-on-5 game, was talking about like you look at Grayson Allen, you look at what Dante just did. Like we have to get past the sneaky athleticism stuff. We have to prove ourselves out here sometimes. Like he was just talking about it, and I thought it was pretty funny that he was just openly talking about the stigma of like white basketball players that are perimeter players. Huerter, I thought, was really good in the one game of 5-on-5 that he played. He was very, as you mentioned, the quick decision making stood out. The fact that he knocked down like deep shots. You know what I mean? Like he like hit those deep threes, like it was nobody's business. You could easily see him move back to like the 27-foot range, like if he played in Houston, for instance, and just have like no problems having to space the floor that way. Very smart kid, very self-aware kid. The things that you've heard about him throughout the last couple of years, even that he is a very mature, very smart kid that would avail himself well in a process like this. And from all intents and purposes, it seems like he did. The stuff that worries me, I don't necessarily love the body. I think he's still very skinny. He's tall, and his length was like a little bit better than what I thought it would be. But he's just still very skinny, I think, and that's a problem.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case. 6'7", a little over 6'7", with a 6'7.5" wingspan, 194 pounds. Pretty good measurables. The size is great. You love that for like a 2'3", mostly maybe a 2, 6'7" can shoot. Yeah. The quick release is ridiculous. I mean, you watch his tape. This guy can really shoot off balance. He's one of the best. He's probably the best off balance shooter to me. One of the best in the class, at least. Like he can come off a pin down and he can be running full speed and catch the ball at 28 feet and like kind of elevate with backward momentum and knock down a three. There's not many guys in this class at that size that can do that. Yep. But the quick decision-making, the playmaking, he has a little bit of guard skill. The feel really stood out to me. He had a couple ridiculous wraparound passes. One, like a backhanded pass, like to his left, I think it was like a pocket pass. Really, really impressive stuff. So I liked his tape. I was late to getting to him this year. I didn't watch a ton of him at the beginning of the year just because Justin Jackson went out, and I just didn't watch a lot of Maryland. But this is a kid who, he seems like he has a high IQ. You talked about his self-awareness. His positional size, he can shoot the ball. I think he's at least a decent defender. I'm not sure if he's going to be a plus defender, but at least he has positional size, and he seems like he has a high IQ, so the length isn't great. I like this kid a lot, though. I think that the ability to shoot the ball off movement is one of the best skills in the NBA right now. If you can bring the ability to handle the ball, too, like this kid can, dribble, pass, shoot, keep talking about that from a 6'7" wing, there's some intrigue here. Yeah,
I think that he's probably like a late first-round pick this year, if you made me kind of predict it. If he was to stay in the draft, there's some question as to whether or not he's going to stay in the draft. I know that John Gavoni tweeted that like he wants a like very strong assurance that he's going to be a first-round pick in a good fit. Not only just in like a, like he's going to be picked somewhere in the first round. Like he wants a place that will take care of what his specific skill set is. And otherwise he's going to go back to Maryland. I think by like mid-year, like I realized pretty quickly he was a better prospect than Justin Jackson, just because Justin Jackson doesn't really have the feel that Huerter does. It's just very easy to see him slotting in by year 2 as a floor spacing, smart, high IQ, wing that hopefully doesn't get his ass kicked defensively too much.
Exactly. I think that positional size again is going to do him justice. He's not undersized as far as being like a 6'4" guy with a six wingspan or something. He's legit 6'7". So I think there's a lot of teams in the late first that could use him. Like the Lakers love guys who can shoot off motion. Maybe need another 6'7" wing who can really play make secondarily, make a nice pass, make a read, make a secondary pick and roll play. So there's some teams. Golden State, of course, stands out. I mean, some people compare Huerter to Klay Thompson. I think that's on the higher end outcome as far as that goes. I don't think he's quite the level of shooter, but if you're looking at a guy that has positional size that can really shoot the ball in this class, Huerter's got to be up in the top echelon as far as discussion there. I do think that intersection is going to get him far in the NBA as far as maybe having a long career. Like I do think that there's a safe floor here as far as a guy that size who can handle the ball and shoot. You look historically at those kind of players, it's a good track record.
Yeah, I mean, the big thing with the Thompson comparison is that he's nowhere near the defender. Just not even in the same ballpark.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember Thompson as a prospect defensively, but as far as what he's become in the NBA, that's a very high-end outcome because Thompson has really eclipsed all that. I think Thompson was bigger coming out, too, so that's also something to note.
Well, yeah, Klay's going to be like a Hall of Famer, so that would be a strong ceiling for Kevin Huerter. Yeah, I think like if you were picking in the late first round, you can easily select Kevin Huerter at this stage. Dante DiVincenzo, let's talk about him real quick. Definitely more of an off-ball guard at this stage. Measurements were more lead guard, but I think he looks and plays bigger than that on the floor. I love the kid's he has no conscience. He is confident and aggressive no matter who he's playing against, no matter what the situation is. And that's like a really underrated skill that people on like the internet and stuff don't talk about. Like just having that confidence and like that, know that you are an NBA player, that you are, that feeling that you're one of the best players on the floor, that you belong on the floor, that takes you a long way, especially early in your career.
I mean, we saw him in the championship game. He had all kinds of confidence, and you've got to back that up here. The 200-pound frame, 6'4.5", 6'6" wingspan. He did good as far as athletic testing is like maximum leap. He was fantastic there. And you saw him. The most impressive thing for me was like the offensive rebounds he had in some of the scrimmages. Like he was getting way up. It wasn't just like he wasn't translating that athleticism functionally to the floor. Like he was making some athletic plays there. He didn't do a ton, I thought, defensively in the 5-on-5s, but the quick release off the catch, very aggressive off the catch and the quick rip-through move. So I think that as an off-ball player, he does have the kind of confidence, the shooting acumen from range that's going to translate. And he did make some nice athletic plays. So, I mean, late first round, early second, I could see him going in the first round compared to how he played here. Like, he outplayed like Shake Milton types in this kind of setting. That's going to resonate probably with some GMs.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So, like, Dante, I don't know that he plays, like, best max vert in the entire NBA draft combine level athletic, but he really does apply his athleticism to the floor. Like, he knows how to use it. He gets up. He can throw down some pretty wild dunks. He can obviously block shots as he did in the NCAA tournament and in the title game. The ability to just score is what intrigues me about him. Like, he is a scorer, and that is super, super useful. I don't really know what else he necessarily does, because, like, I don't know that I trust him defensively at the next level. Maybe he will be, like, a good defensive rebounding guard, but how valuable is that? Like, I guess it's a little bit valuable because you can start the break a little bit earlier. I just don't know what to do with him in a lot of ways. Like, I think that he is someone that will get looked at. Like, I think he'll be a top 40 pick, but I think he's still just more of like a bench scorer, right?
That's exactly what I think he is. But he has the confidence at least to come in and the shooting acumen to give you good minutes off the bench as a scoring type. So he can make shots. The NBA needs guys with, I mean, he has relative positional size, but when you factor in the weight, I think he's going to be fine at, like, I guess the traditional 2, comes off the bench, makes some shots, come off movement a little bit, can operate in like a motion kind of offense, maybe handle the ball a tad in straight lines, get to the rim. I mean, he's capable there. He's got the athleticism, the pop around the rim when he can load up. So it's about confidence, too. It's about having that mental approach on a nightly basis. I think he can fill a role off the bench for an NBA team.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Let's move on. Is there anyone else you want to talk about in terms of people who popped? Like, who do you think helped themselves? Maybe we'll go like a little bit shorter in this one now.
I think DeAnthony Melton's just a guy I want to mention. I'm already really high on him, so there's no for me, I kind of expected it, but like shot functionality in the second scrimmage, especially hit like a fadeaway shot. He keeps the ball pretty close to his body now, and he shoots out. He shoots up and not out. And the release, the arc really stood out to me is positive. He had a catch and shoot 3 from the wing. He's the best instincts guy. He stood out in the 5-on-5 in the second day. He was everywhere in the passing lanes, deflections. Like, the kid just knows how to play, man. He has that it factor. Not crazy measurables. 6'3", a little over 6'3", with a 8.5 wingspan, 193 pounds. Not going to pop dynamically there, but he plays bigger than his size. I just love this kid. Yeah,
definitely a guy that I think, 20 to 35, pretty easy to slot in as a guy there. I really liked Sagaba Konate in the 5-on-5 settings. He's just like 6'7.5" with a 7-foot wingspan and is a center. That's a tough fit in today's NBA, especially when like your main source of value is being a rim protector and being a energy guy and being a rebounder. He was a pretty good rebounder this year at West Virginia. Was not like this hyper elite rebounder. I guess like he was fine. Like, I guess that like if he was to enter the draft, he would continue to probably be like a late second round pick, maybe something like that, as like a future backup center.
Sure. 8'10" standing reach, and he was everywhere blocking shots. Again, we know that watching him from West Virginia, but in the first combine day, like, he was erasing everything at the rim, just going up with 2 hands, blocking shots. He's really athletic as far as like from a standstill, he can jump pretty high. He has great instincts around the basket. I don't really believe in the offensive decision making. He takes some really bad shots. Yeah. I'm not sure like what he really does. And backup 5s, if you're not special, are kind of a dime a dozen. But I'm on board with him in the late second.
Yeah, I just whatever. He's whatever to me.
Yeah.
If sure. The thing is though, like the measurements aren't changing for him. Like he's not getting bigger in all likelihood. Like if he was to grow, then yeah, maybe he would be a first round pick next year. But like whatever he wants to do, go. Like I don't really think he can make a bad call here, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Before we move on to some guys who might have hindered themselves, let's go on ahead and get some advertisements out of the way. Something that is near and dear to my heart as someone who could not see for the last 10 years of their life up until Simple Contacts came around. Simple Contacts is the most convenient way to renew your contact lens prescription and reorder your brand of contacts from anywhere in minutes. It is vision care for the 21st century. If you need to renew your prescription, you can just take a 5-minute vision test from your phone or computer. It's reviewed by a licensed doctor. You receive a renewed prescription and reorder your contacts. All you need is your current contacts, an internet connection, and 10 feet of space. If you have that unexpired prescription, just upload a photo or your doctor's information and order your lenses. Simple Contacts is awesome because it's convenient, it's fast, it's reliable. It's designed by doctors and licensed by ophthalmologists. They review every test and they carefully make sure that your eyes look healthy and that your vision hasn't changed. They offer all kinds of choices of contacts. They have a 5-star experience and they're great for summer because you're going to have these beach days, you're going to have vacations, outdoor activities, wedding season. You can use Simple Contacts to update your prescription and stock up for the summer. They save you money and they're just a fantastic company. There's really no other way to describe Simple Contacts. As I've said on the podcast before, they really helped me out whenever I needed to go out and get contacts 2 or 3 weeks ago. They just really make it easy on you in terms of your user experience. It's a fantastic app. And, they saved me so much time and money compared to having to go into an office. The code that you're looking to use here is Game Theory. If you use that code Game Theory, simplecontacts.com/Game Theory, or enter Game Theory at checkout, you're going to get $30 off of your order of contacts. This isn't a replacement for your periodic full eye health exam. Somewhere along the lines, you're going to need to get tested for glaucoma. You're going to need to get tested for all of the ailments that can befall your eyes. But if you use that code Game Theory with Simple Contacts, go to simplecontacts.com/Game Theory. You're going to get $30 off. So I would suggest it if you need contacts. Our second sponsor today is a new wellness brand for men. 66% of men lose their hair by age 35. But the thing is, when you start to notice hair loss, it's too late. It's easier to keep the hair you have than to replace the hair you've lost. If that hairline is slowly starting to creep backward, or if you have any bald spots, you got to really take care of it when you can. If you don't want a bald spot to pop up and you don't want to have that hairline back way above your forehead line by the time you're 35, you got to go to forhims.com. It's a one-stop shop for hair loss, skincare, sexual wellness. It's for men. Thanks to science, baldness can be optional. Hims connects you with real doctors and medical grade solutions to treat hair loss. Well-known generic equivalents to name brand subscriptions that help you keep your hair. There are no snake oil pills. There are no gas station counter supplements. It's all prescription solutions backed by science. There's no waiting rooms. You don't have to feel awkward when you're going to the doctor's office, kind of dealing with all of the, embarrassment of having a rough hairline. It's so easy. Answer a few quick questions and a doctor will review and prescribe for you. It's really just a fantastic product. As someone myself that has that hairline creeping back, I'm so glad that forhims.com has come around. If you order now, my listeners are going to get a trial month of Hims for just $5 today while supplies last. See website for details. This would cost hundreds of dollars if you went to a doctor or pharmacy. Go to forhims.com/game theory. That's going to be GAMETHEORY. Go to forhims.com/game theory, forhims.com/game theory. Cole, is there anyone who did not stand out to you or who stood out negatively to you in these 5-on-5 sessions and measurements, everything like that?
I think we got to start with Zaire Smith, unfortunately.
Do we? Wow.
I
wouldn't even go this far. I am excited to see this.
Yeah, so, the 6'4", that definitely came in under what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be more 6'5 and a half, 6'9 and a half. Basically a 6'10 wingspan. That's fine, 198, almost 199. I'm not really concerned about the frame that much. I think he's going to be able to fill out. He's got a pretty decent frame, but he definitely is a guard-sized player. Yeah. He's not a wing-sized player, and he has the skill of, a wing forward. And I'm going to say this in the most politically correct way possible. His interview was pretty underwhelming as far as on the transmission, as far as on the broadcast. He was the one guy that wasn't that engaging to me. Most of the prospects they had on were pretty engaging, and he didn't really pop there either. So when you look back at his film, it's I love the functional athleticism. I'm still really high on him overall. I don't think he's like a faller necessarily, but as far as the expectation level coming in, you watch his tape back. It's does he really have the instincts? Does he really have the IQ? And now I'm kind of questioning that a little bit more.
Yeah, in Zaire's case, he's a guy that, in terms of intel and background, I've been told he's a really good kid. Not necessarily the most mature kid, he's still 18 years old, but not mature by NBA standards, but he is, a good kid by all intents and purposes, but he is still kind of figuring this all out. It seems like to me, there's no way that going into his freshman year at Texas Tech, he thought he was going to be one and done. If he was really looking at it, sure. You know what I mean? I think that those kids sometimes, it's really hard for them to adjust. It's really hard for them to within a month and a half time span, realize, holy shit, I'm going to be in the NBA making millions of dollars next year. I assumed I would be in Lubbock, Texas for the next 3 years of my life. I think it's just such a quick, head turning adjustment that it can be, I don't want to say he was overwhelmed by the setting, but I think it can be to an extent overwhelming for some people. So the interview stuff, he was fine, I guess. He definitely was not someone that was hyper engaging, but whatever, do your thing. The measurements scared me a lot. Definitely more of a guard now, 6'2", 7'5" without shoes, 6'4" with shoes. That's not great. Especially given that Texas Tech listed him at 6'5" all year. Long arms, +7 wingspan off of the without shoes height. That's great. Athletically performed, I would say pretty well. in terms of the athletic testing. I think he was the second quickest 3-quarter sprint, was third in max vert, was fine, like right around that 11 mark in lane agility, was I think like fine in the shuttle run, maybe like a little bit slow there, but it was whatever for him. He just didn't blow up, I think, like a lot of people expected him to with the combine.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. Like, you came in a little bit more skeptical than me, and then I just realized a couple things over the course of the 2 days that made me more skeptical as well. I'm still high on him, but I do think that it tempered my expectations some, both measurement-wise and kind of just overall. You watch his tape back, it's like the IQ, is it really there? Like, is it there enough to really take a dice roll on? He just didn't have that it factor for me. That's the best way I can explain it.
Sorry, my cat just knocked over my iPad. My cat is killing me. During the ad read, my cat like bit my wrist to try and get me to play with her, and it's like I had to like move the microphone afterward. Yeah, cat is killing me right now.
That's great.
Yeah, in Smith's case, like I've always thought of him as more of like a top 30 guy, not a like super high end like potential lottery pick. And I still don't think of him as like this high end lottery pick. The athleticism and the instincts defensively are certainly there, and I really like him as a role player going forward. But like he doesn't have like star power, I don't think.
And that's what I came to the realization of. I never really saw him that way necessarily, but I did think there was that ceiling outcome. I'm less there now. Like now I'm more like he's a role player. He seems like a great kid. Like he'll fill a role. He talked about being coachable. He said a lot of the right things. Again, I just don't think he had that it factor when I watched him. So it's like now I'm more like toward your level. He's probably still going to be lottery for me just because that level of athleticism really bops. I mean, he's so quick off the floor. A lot of his testing confirmed what you saw on tape, which is pretty clearly obvious, but I'm just a little bit more reserved now.
Shake Milton, I would say, is someone that is somewhat like I love Shake Milton as a player. I love the fact that he's 6'6" with a 7'1" wingspan and shoots 40% from three. Don't think he performed particularly well here, I would say.
Yes, he is another guy on my list. Just could not create separation on offense here. Just the athleticism concerns that we saw. We talked about Melvin Frazier being a winner. He's someone who really locked up Shake Milton this year. And you just saw all of the concerns manifest in that 5-on-5 setting comparatively to other players. He has the measurables. He just doesn't really have the dynamic skill game and the plus athleticism to like functionally apply that to the floor. So it was kind of a disappointing, I think, experience for him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. He didn't perform well in the 5-on-5, and he didn't perform well in the athletic testing. I think it's hard to really call anyone anything other than someone who hurt themselves here in that scenario, right?
Exactly that. I mean, we didn't think he was a high-level athlete, of course, but having that confirmed via testing, it's basically like we know this guy can make a spot-up shot. He can shoot. He has shot diversity. He can shoot a little bit off movement. He can shoot off the dribble. But how valuable is that when the athleticism isn't there? You're not going to be like he can dribble, pass, and shoot in theory, but it doesn't really apply to the floor like you'd want it to. Yeah.
Another guy is someone that you were a little bit high on throughout the year and that I kind of clued in on by maybe like late February. Kenrich Williams. This was not a great setting for him necessarily. Like I think that there are mitigating factors for why he would struggle in something like this, but like he's someone who needs structure around him. I think he's someone who needs a defined role, and then he can perform really, really well in that defined role. For people who don't know, the way that these 5-on-5 games work is they give them the teams, and then they warm up for 10 minutes, and then they go play. Like there's no coaching, there's no game plan ahead of time. There's coaches just say, okay, these 5 guys are starting, we'll coach you up during the game, but this is what the teams are going to be. So I think that this was a tough setting for Kenrich Williams.
Definitely not the kind of setting that's going to make him pop. Like he does the small things that help winning, like an extra pass. He sinks down to the corner shooter. He did a couple of those things here, but nobody's really watching for that. I thought his defense was actually pretty good on ball. Like his feet are really reactive as far as like he kind of reminds me of Joe Ingles that way. Like when he moves his feet, he's really good at positioning. I thought he stood out in that respect. He made a couple shots. I think he had 1 pull up, but he also airballed a 3 pull up. So it's not the kind of setting that he's going to fare well in because he's not that high-level athlete that stands out in a 5-on-5 setting. He's kind of the ancillary player at the next level who just makes the right decisions, is a smart player who doesn't turn the ball over, can make a spot shot potentially. He can dribble, but again, it's not super functional. He's not going to attack the rim and like dunk on somebody, right? So it's just one of those. He's just one of the low key guys that doesn't really stand out in a setting like this.
Yeah, and another guy here that I want to mention as well is Jonte Porter. Jonte Porter, worst vertical leap at the combine, I think, right? Like 31. He had the highest body fat coming in, which not like a crazy surprise, right? That, you know, he's just a bigger framed guy. It's not like, you know, you would like to see him come in more shape. Like Wendell Carter came in like ripped. I would like to see Jonte hopefully at some point really focus in on his conditioning and his, you know, body fat and everything. It's just he's not an athlete, and that's a problem.
Teddy Bear Jonte, man, comes in at almost 14% body fat. I did think his height, 6'11 and a half with a 9'1 standing reach. Those are two good numbers for him. I know that 7 foot, like a little over 7 foot wingspan. I think he can move laterally a little bit better than some people do, and he's got good as far as positioning, good reactive athleticism. But yeah, he needs to get in shape. I do think that there is some upside potential here, though, because we've seen guys that go into the draft in the past, like a Draymond Green. I'm not saying that Jonte is Draymond, of course, but guys who are out of shape, they get in shape, and that escalates their draft stock. So if Jonte goes late first round, he gets in shape and he adds a little bit of pop, he adds a little bit of, you know, horizontal athleticism. I think he can be a bargain because I do think that he's the best ball handling kind of big. He's the best kind of 0.5 in the class to me. Like that dude can really handle the ball. He's a high level passer, a quick decision maker. So I'm on the Jonte train still, but yeah, he's got to get in shape, man.
Yeah. Another guy I want to point out is Chris Wilkes too. I was a fan of Chris Wilkes kind of coming into this process, and I like him. Like I've talked to him a few times out here at UCLA. I think he's a really good kid. I think it kind of overwhelmed him a little bit playing in 5-on-5 here too. He's just still very skinny, and it seemed like the physicality of the game and the quickness of the game was something he was not quite ready for yet.
Very much agree with that. I think that was well put. He does have good measurables, though. I mean, 6'7 and a half with a 6'10 wingspan, 205-pound frame.
Let me be clear. Like, I think he's going to play in the NBA at some point. Like, no question. But I think he is someone that could really help himself by returning and playing well.
100% agree. Yeah, the allure with him is he has the measurables. He has like the aesthetic shot, but I do think the game is probably still too fast for him. I think he should go back to school and really hone his skills, but he does have the measurables that NBA executives are going to covet.
Yeah. Before we move on to like the testing the waters guys, you know, in terms of decision making, I want to mention three guys that I actually do think played really well that we didn't mention at the top here. I want to mention Javon Carter. He just like shut down everyone defensively. Like even in a setting like this, he was remarkable defensively in the way that he changes the game every single time he comes on the floor.
I think it was like the third play of the first scrimmage the first day where they had Billis talking, and all of a sudden, like, you see in the background that Javon Carter's picking somebody up.
Yeah.
Like full court. You're like, yep, of course he is.
Yeah. He was awesome. The measurements did not do like any justice to him. Like, I think he was 6'2" with a 6'4" wingspan and, you know, sub 8 foot standing reach. I don't care. Like, I'm at the point where I just do not care. That dude is someone I want on my team.
He's a bulldog, man. At the very least, I think he can fill a role that's valuable as far as even just in practice. Like, that guy will just increase the energy that you have there. He's a great kid, and he's a worker, man. Like, you heard him talk. I mean, we've talked off air about him as far as your interactions with him. Man of very little words. He's just like basically, I don't want to talk.
Did he talk on the telecast at all?
He did. They had him on the broadcast, and it was very minimal. It was like, I'm a worker. I've done what I've done at West Virginia for the last 4 years. They were really concise, really concrete answers. It was kind of hilarious.
Yeah, like I'll give background on this. So like I was at the NCAA tournament, and I really wanted to write about Javon Carter just being the best defender I think like on the perimeter I've ever seen in my life, and I like asked him about like film and all this stuff, and he was very clearly not having it and like had a scowl on his face after just a like mini practice session even. He's locked in. We'll say that. He's always like 100% locked in, has no time for frills, no time for anything that is not basketball related. And, Bob Huggins has like kind of relayed some stories about him, like how he went to a AAU gym when I think Javon was a senior, going into his senior year one summer, and was going to see another kid, and Javon Carter started picking up this dude at 8 a.m. full court, like for the entire game. And Huggins like called his assistants immediately. He's like, I don't care who I'm here to see. Like, I want this kid. Who is he? So yeah, like that's the kind of dude you're dealing with Javon Carter. I think he's someone though too that his teammates will really appreciate just because of the way he plays and just the intensity in general. Kevin Huerter played really well. I thought he was his length really played up in a setting like this. His shooting ability was obviously tremendous. Kind of looks like Robert Covington out there. It's just like the defense is kind of a concern, right? Like, is he going to be tough enough to really like sit down and defend all the time?
Yeah, high center of gravity with him too. You talked about the medical red flags. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I mean, the defense for me, like if he could defend, I would be really, really interested in him because, like you noted, he has some feel offensively too. When you watch his tape, like he can pass a little bit. Like he knows what to do. And this shot at that size with that length is really intriguing. I just don't think he can really defend. Like he's a 4 only to me, and I just don't know how valuable he is as like a switch guy or like a team defender. He didn't play with high effort in college, so yeah, I thought especially the second scrimmage he was really effective in, scored the ball, made some shots, but I don't know. I don't know how valuable it is if you can't defend.
Yeah, like to me, if he was someone that I knew was not going to get flagged in the pre-draft process medically, I would have him as a first-round pick. I have no like qualms about having him as like a late first-round pick, but because he tore his right ACL in his senior year of high school. He tore his left ACL in his sophomore year of college. And I want to say there was even an injury like earlier on in his high school career too that like really held him back. Like it's how you end up at a place like UT Arlington whenever you're as talented as he is, right? I think that he's probably going to be like maybe an undrafted guy that we really find ends up maybe outperforming his stock or ends up getting hurt and having to go over to Europe.
Yeah, if I'm an NBA team, I'll put him on a two-way. I just think he has the kind of physical measurement skills. And
it's like a Jonathan Motley situation last year.
Exactly.
8'11" standing reach, too. He might be able to play like a sneaky amount of small ball center.
Yeah, you just worry about, again, the ability to anchor. But yeah, from a length reach standpoint, and you can have that kind of shooting on the floor, that'd be intriguing.
Yeah, I would be interested in that at least. We'll see. Is there anyone else that we want to note real quick? Oh, there is one other name. Go ahead on your end.
I was going to say really quick, PJ Washington, someone who played pretty well, I thought, like a pick and pop jump shot.
Let's talk about him in the next section, though, because we're going to talk about like guys testing the process.
Perfect.
I just want to note like these 3 seniors because I knew that they weren't going to come up. Alize Johnson is the other guy. I thought Alize Johnson played well in 5-on-5. He's just small. Like he's 6'8", 6'8.5" wingspan. Like he's Gordon Hayward size, but is a 4. And I don't really know how that works. He's also like 31-inch vertical leap, like 12 lane agility time. Like not anything athletically, not really anything in terms of measurements. I don't really know what to think though.
Yeah, that's basically sums up my stance on him. I watched a little bit of his tape, so I don't have a great feel for him. He did play pretty well. He has some coordination getting to the rim, has some body control, handle the ball a little bit. I just don't know. It's do you think he goes second round?
Probably not, but I think that he showed himself as someone that you might want to, keep track of throughout the process. And if he had a good summer league, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, I think Bobby Marks talked about this. There's like 3 different stages. Like you get drafted, there's the 2 ways, and then there's like the training camp contracts. I think that he'll probably get one of the latter too.
Yeah, no, for sure. And the training camp contracts, it used to be like teams like Houston, for instance, used to do this every year. Like they would prioritize a bunch of money for like, and by a bunch, I mean like maybe like $750,000 to guys who went undrafted. Like they gave Kyle Wiltshire like $350,000 one year. They gave Gary Payton II like a guaranteed contract one year. That doesn't really exist anymore because if you want a player to be an affiliate player in your G League team, the most you can give them is $50,000. So it becomes a little bit more complicated with the way that you allocate your contracts now. And I'll be interested to see where Alize Johnson ends up because he's someone that if I was on draft night, I would be calling him draft night saying like, hey, we really want you on our summer league team. We think that you're someone that could really play well for us.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay, let's talk about like the decisions of testing the waters. PJ Washington is a good place to start there because I liked the energy. I liked the athleticism. Generally, like he's just an awesome offensive rebounder. He played hard, I thought, in game 1 at least. Game 2, I wasn't like, I'll be honest, like I was watching here and there. Like I wasn't like 100% locked into it. He looked solid though.
I agree. Yeah, game 1 he popped a little bit, pick and pop jump shots, had a couple of mid-range guys, a couple of mid-range jump shots. His athleticism, I mean, he had a recovery chase down block. We know he's explosive off 2 feet. I just thought somebody who's been under the radar all year just because Kentucky, he didn't play consistently well this season either, but he does have some intriguing measurables, and you talked about his allure heading into the combine as far as athletically. That's not really a concern. I'm just more concerned, like, what is his skill game? Like, can he handle the ball that much? He had a bunch of turnovers. I can't remember if it was in the second half of the second game or the second half of the first game, but, he ran into problems there. Can he shoot the NBA 3? There's some questions with him, but there definitely is athletic appeal there.
8'11" and a half standing reach. I think he's like a backup 5, to be honest. I think
that's always what I thought.
Yeah, like I think he is a backup 5. Was very productive in his time on the floor, and that's just kind of the way he's always been. It's weird because there are still like the questions about effort with him, but like every time he plays, he produces. I don't really know what to think of all that, to be honest, because like I haven't met the kid and like talked to him a lot. But he said again he wants to be a first-round pick. I don't think he did enough to guarantee himself being a first-round pick.
No, I would say basically he's not going to be. I would be stunned if he's a first-round pick.
I wouldn't say I would be stunned, but I would say that I don't think it's going to happen. We've talked about like Kevin Huerter and Dante DiVincenzo and Josh Okogie. I think we kind of noted what we thought of them in terms of stay and go. Omari Spellman is someone we haven't talked about. I thought he was really bad in the first game. I thought he was pretty good in the second game of 5-on-5. What are your impressions of Spellman here?
Yeah, basically that. I mean, he struggled. He had one shot from behind 3 that it was kind of a push shot, and it was way short rim. And it was like, can you really get the ball from NBA 3 there consistently? But he knocked down some shots in the second scrimmage that alleviated some of those concerns. He's going to have to shoot. I mean, that's his allure at the next level, is like a pick and pop kind of 5-4. I didn't get a great feel for his space defense on this just because you're watching all 10 guys.
It's not good.
He just did. Yeah, he didn't really pop for me in that scenario, so it wasn't like he stood out laterally either. So I don't know. Like, if he came out, where do you think he goes?
I mean, me personally, like mid-second round, but yeah. I think that NBA teams are slightly higher on him. I don't think he's like a guaranteed first-round pick by any stretch of the imagination. I do think that he'd have a chance to go like 38 to like 45. But like if it was me, I wouldn't be looking at him until like 45.
I'm with that. I think he has a better chance of going first round than PJ Washington is because I think NBA guys are going to trust his shot more, and he's a Jay Wright kid. So there's some allure there. I don't know. I'm not a huge Spellman guy. Mid-second round, early second round even, he's fine depending on who else is on the board.
I would probably take PJ Washington over him. I'll be honest.
Yeah, it's defensible.
Yeah, I like the athleticism more. I think he's going to be able to switch defensively. Like, just give me that stuff more than give me the like shooting ability that Spellman has. Tyus Battle played well in the second game of 5-on-5. Like it seemed like he settled in. You look at the athletic measurements, they were solid. I would say they were not like amazing. Like he didn't leap wildly highly. I think he was like right around 37.5, 38. But he didn't really do any of the things that he needed to show in the NBA draft combine. Like he didn't show the ability to like rebound or pass the ball well.
Yeah, he didn't really pop for me at all, frankly, watching the 5-on-5. He made some shots in the second scrimmage it was, but I wasn't enthralled with him, honestly. I have never really been. Like he has the physical gifts. Something's missing with him for me, like the IQ, kind of the passing acumen. He has to shoot. He maybe can be a secondary ball handler type. I don't know. He just doesn't do the things that I value in wings and kind of secondary handlers as well as he should.
Yeah, he's someone I'm a little bit lower on after the combine. Like I had him like as a potential late first round pick. I'm probably not there. Like I think I trust like Josh Okogie, Kevin Huerter, like all of the guys we've talked about already a little bit more than I trust Tyus Battle.
Oh, 100% for me, yeah.
Brian Bowen is in like the funkiest spot that I can remember in terms of whether or not he should stay or go because he has no idea what his eligibility looks like even, and he did not play well in 5-on-5, I didn't think. Like, he was a little bit better in game 2, but still chucking up a bunch of shots, turned the ball over 6 times in the first game, I think. Like, he was just not, he's not an NBA player yet. Like, no, he's like a guy that I would be worried about getting G League minutes right now.
I can't say any better than that, man. He was really disappointing to me. I didn't like his film at all in the combine. Like, I wouldn't draft him.
Yeah, I think that, like, he's a perfect two-way contract candidate. Like, if you could get him to agree to a 2-year two-way contract, I'd be like, okay, sure, sounds great. Other than that, I don't know. Caleb and Cody Martin, these guys are important for college basketball people because if they both return, Nevada is like a top 7 or 8 team next year. If they end up leaving and going to the pros or to the NBA potentially, Nevada is like a top 25 team and not necessarily as high end. What did we think of the Martin twins?
Didn't pop for me, honestly.
I thought they were bad, I will say.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely fair. When I say didn't pop, I usually mean bad. I mean, I'm looking for the guys who really jump out at you in 5-on-5, and neither of them did.
Yeah, Bruno Fernando, 7'4" wingspan, was high motor, was athletic, I thought, did all of the things that you expect Bruno Fernando to do. The jump shot, I think, actually looks pretty clean and looks pretty good. Feels a concern. He has no idea how to play yet, I don't think.
Yes, exactly that. I mean, the jump shot, I think he's capable from mid-range. Can he shoot NBA threes yet? I don't know. Not super high in his form overall, but I mean, he can maybe pick and pop from mid-range. And I just didn't see enough from him. I mean, the physical gifts are definitely there. Like, his dimensions are, 6'10", 7'4", wingspan, 9'1" standing reach. He's got a pretty good frame at 233 pounds, but the game, I don't think, is ready for the NBA yet.
Would you take Amari Spellman or him?
Oh, boy. That's a great question. I think Spellman, just because I trust his shooting more, but I'm not really high on, we've talked about this in the past as far as bigs who don't really profile in like a set role immediately. I'm not super high on developmental bigs. Yeah,
no, I'm right there with you. I think I would take Fernando over Spellman, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Udoka Azubuike, he performed, and he had a lot of rebounds, a lot of points. No.
He did. He was explosive off the floor. He had a couple of really big dunks because he's gargantuan, but he's not going to be able to defend in space. So that's all there is to it.
Yeah, and even the touch stuff, like airball to free throw.
Not great.
Yeah, he just doesn't have feel. If he's going to be an NBA player, he needs to significantly improve his feel for the game. He needs to improve his shooting and skill level. I'll give him credit for this. That dude came in ripped. He is absolutely jacked. He is in shape. He worked his ass off to get here, and he worked his ass off before the year to have as productive a season as he did this year. But he's not there yet. He's just not. And he's really young. He's still, I want to say he's the age of a freshman, even though he's a sophomore. So, he's still young. He might get there, but he's not there.
I would go back to school if I was him.
I agree. I honestly would. I think he can help himself. Carson Edwards, I thought, didn't quite do enough to really stand out. I was so excited when he got invited to the combine because I thought he would do really, really well. I thought he was good in game 1, and I thought he was not very good in game 2.
He's thick. You can see the build is alluring. He had I think one explosive dunk. He's got some athleticism to him. He just couldn't turn the corner consistently enough for me, and he didn't really do a whole lot defensively that stood out. But yeah, I mean, he did some things. I'm kind of a fan. I would have him probably in the second round, but I'm not super high on him.
Yeah. Is there anyone else? Who else are the testers? Oh, this is a good question. What did you think of guys like Hamidou Diallo while we're talking about underclassmen? What did you think of guys like Diallo, Trayvon Duval, Billy Preston? Who else sat out? There were guys all these guys sat out of the combine. What did you think of that decision?
I don't know. I mean, with Diallo, now he's already been kind of exposed this season, so it's not if it was last year, I thought he just should have came out last year, man. Honestly, after that whole kind of mysterious thing about his vertical and everything, so not playing, I don't really think it did him justice either way. I don't think it would have mattered. People kind of already know unless he just shot the hell out of the ball. If he's been refining his mechanics, that'd be the only situation where he'd need to play. Because honestly, what is he really going to show that he hasn't? Same with Trayvon Duval. Unless he's really been working on a specific skill that he wants these guys to see, I don't know what the upside or really the downside was to playing.
Yeah. Before we get out of here, let's talk real quick about measurements. Did any measurements that we haven't talked about already pop? And there's one name that we have to talk about.
I'll let you take it away. I was going to talk about Jaren Jackson or Mohamed Bamba. Both those guys, I mean, we kind of already knew, but damn, ridiculous.
I was going to mention Bamba. Bamba, 7'10" 7'10" wingspan. That is a record. 9'7.5" standing reach. That is among the highest ever recorded. 225 pounds. Dude looked fresh as hell in that suit, by the way. Like he was balling on the telecast and whenever he did interviews for the media and stuff. Jaren Jackson, you mentioned as well. I think that's a really good note because 9'2" standing reach, 6'11" 2'5", 7'5" 2'5" wingspan, huge hands as well. Yeah, I think he's good. He's going to end up having a solid career, I think.
Absolutely. And I think Wendell Carter came in 6'10". Oh, yeah, solid career. 251 pounds. He looked shredded. Wendell Carter looked great. And then he's back over that 7'4" wingspan threshold. He dropped to 7'3", I think, in the Hoop Summit. They had him measured there. So 7'4.5", 91 standing reach. A little undersized height-wise, but he makes up for it in different avenues. I thought that it was a big measurement for him.
Yep, I agree with that. Ray Spalding, I didn't realize how big Ray Spalding was. Like the fact that he's a 9'1" standing reach and is 7'5" wingspan makes me think he might be able to play a little bit of center.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a little skinny, like you noted, but I mean, he's got good measurables and he's got good movement skills. It just comes down to the girth.
Yeah, and he's like super active with his hands defensively. I really liked that. Michael Porter came in at 9 standing reach with 9 foot, half an inch standing reach. He might be able to play some center. Like he might be a small ball center.
I've been saying that, man. I think he's a 4'5". I think he's a 4'5". Honestly, if he can add some girth, I don't trust him really against NBA wings. I think that issue in defending in space is going to be pretty legitimate. But as a 4'5", that guy can shoot the ball. He can dribble well enough there. So that standing reach is really good.
We finally got a Keita Bates-Diop measurement, 7'3", 2'5", wingspan, 8'10.5" standing reach. I think he's more of like just a straight 4, which is great. Like he needed those measurements to be a straight 4.
Yep, just backed up what we saw in film. The length really pops when you watch him. So they had that great measurements for him. Shai
Alexander, 8'8" standing reach. He is essentially the size of a 4 in terms of like length. But, 180 pounds, obviously not going to be playing any 4. He's a point guard. But, yeah, he is a large frame. 3% body fat as well. And I don't think it's due to being shredded. It's due to just being incredibly skinny.
Yeah, 180 pounds at 6'6". For context, Trae Young measured in a little under 6'2", and he is basically 178 pounds, so 2 pounds lighter.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about all I got for you. Do you want to get out of here?
Let's do it, man. I don't have anything else. Actually, really quick, Landry Shamet, there was some talk that he had a 7-foot wingspan, so coming in a little bit at 6'7". No, he does not have a 7-foot wingspan.
Yeah, Landry Shamet, 6'6" wingspan, something like that. Nothing crazy. Jacob Evans is a name that we should probably mention. He played 5-on-5, which is baller. Good for him. Cole, tell the people where they can find your work.
As usual on thestepien.com, start cranking out content basically every day on the site. So look for that and continue to listen to this podcast.
Thanks for coming on, Cole. This has been the Game Theory Podcast. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Go use that Game Theory promo code over at Simple Contacts and forhims.com. We will be back later next week. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA draft decisions as they come down from underclassmen deciding whether or not they need to stay or go. But until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.